A good Friday afternoon. It is May 6th, 2022. Welcome to the Sports Note on YouTube. I know I've actually been away for a couple of weeks, just kind of needed a break from a couple of things. Really hadn't even been watching the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs, really, after the Cavaliers got knocked out of the play-in round in the NBA. I have really not paid attention to or cared about the NBA playoffs. We've got the NFL draft. The Browns did not have a first round pick, didn't really care, except, of how stupid they were with, trading back and everything. But the first month of the baseball season, and next week actually will be the first full month, I want to say, has been very entertaining. We've actually seen, we're starting to see things shape up, a little bit more. We're seeing the Mets out in front. We're actually seeing, the teams that should be out in front starting to make their way. We're seeing, unfortunately, just how disappointing the Chicago White Sox are, especially after as good as they were last year. We're seeing the San Francisco Giants starting to struggle a little bit, sitting right now in fourth in the National League West. We're seeing possibly the worst season in history unfolding, in the history of baseball, nonetheless, with the Cincinnati Reds, who are 3-22 going into tonight, who have also had losing streaks of 11, and currently at 9 and counting. But the one story that's really kind of jumped off the page for me has not been how good is Stephen Kwan for the Cleveland Guardians, how good is Shohei Ohtani for the Angels, but it's really been what the Oakland Athletics, and more specifically their fans, are doing so far this year. Nobody really is paying attention to the Athletics for anything other than their attendance figures. The Athletics right now are 10-15. They're in the basement of the NL West. They're only a half game behind Texas, however, and a game and a half behind Seattle. Again, 6 games out. They've lost 6 in a row, but they've only drawn 100,000 and change, and literally change, in total attendance for the season. They're averaging just over 7,700 fans a night in 13 home games. The only team who's actually drawn fewer than them, than the Athletics so far, have been the Cleveland Guardians, who have drawn 93,000 and change. But the thing is, the Guardians have only played 7 home games, because they've had 3 rainouts. The Cincinnati Reds, again, who are 3-22, have drawn 155,000 fans in 8 games. Now, the Guardians and the Reds, because of the fact that, nobody in baseball knows how to actually schedule these teams out on the road for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season, when the weather in this part of the country sucks, are the only teams in baseball that have played fewer than 10 home games. But the Reds are drawing 19,000 fans a game. The Guardians are drawing 13,000 fans a game. Those numbers are going to pick up, even as bad as both of those teams could end up being, and the Reds certainly going to be far worse than the Guardians will be. But I don't know if I can actually see a scenario where Oakland's going to reach anywhere near that number if the fans keep responding this way. If owner John Fisher is not willing to open up the pocketbook, much like Stephen Schott, if we all remember, the Moneyball movie, and primarily Schott's entire tenure as owner before Fisher took ownership himself. The A's always, they're not going to open up the pocketbook and spend, which is, in a small market like that. And if you look at the city of Oakland, Oakland went from 3 professional franchises down to 1 in a span of less than 2 years. They went from the Raiders moving to Las Vegas in 2020, and then the Warriors left Oakland for San Francisco in 2019 after winning 3 titles in 4 years, and could be poised to actually win another one this year. And the Raiders were in the playoffs last year in Las Vegas. They were hovering around playoff contention their last few years in Oakland, but the Athletics are going nowhere. They're playing in a multi-purpose football stadium, which is eerily reminiscent of the Cleveland Indians playing at Old Municipal Stadium until Progressive Field was built back in 1994, which is always why, when the stadium explosion happened 15 years ago, that everyone and their mother went out and actually had a new baseball stadium built. The Nationals did it. The Indians did it. Now Guardians. The A's have not, and they're paying for it. Even the Marlins went out and got a new park. And there's also talk about Tropicana Field where the Rays play. Now, granted, that's not football size or capacity, but even they're looking at a new stadium because of how bad they quite honestly fucked up their first attempt with that, of how bad the Trop is. But the A's announced back near the end of 2018 that they plan on building a 33,000 capacity stadium in the port area of Oakland, which is one of the largest ports on the western seaboard. But who's going to attend? It's going to be nice for the first year or so. You get some people out to be able to see the ballpark, but you're not going to be contending anywhere, especially with some of the other teams in your division, with Seattle coming up, Houston still always being very tough, but you're not going anywhere. And quite honestly, the only place that the Athletics should be going is not up in the division standings, but out of city confines. Between management's reluctance to spend, combined with city council and legislature's reluctance to back, quite honestly, any professional sports franchise, which is a very big moneymaker for your city, regardless of how bad that team might be, the Athletics probably would have been better off exploring Santa Clara like the 49ers did. Maybe going to, they certainly couldn't go to San Francisco like the Warriors did, but there's other places in the Bay Area they could have explored, possibly San Jose. You're trying to tell me that even with one of their worst seasons in recent memory, that the San Jose Sharks still didn't actually have people coming out because Team Teal is still a thing, regardless of how bad their franchise, how bad their team is right now in the NHL. It's very, very puzzling why the Athletics are. It's a how did Green Bay say it? Wish in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up first. They don't want to spend to field a competitive team to equate the balance of getting the backing of the legislature, but the legislature doesn't want to back regardless of whatever, because Oakland is now essentially a small market and has been for a number of years. If the Raiders left twice, now granted they did come back one of those times, but a $1.9 billion stadium out in Las Vegas will certainly fix any qualms of wanting to stay in a stadium that's falling apart, like the Ring Central Coliseum is, formerly the Oakland Alameda Coliseum. But this is, I said on the blog a couple of years ago when the Raiders were looking to move to Oakland that this is this is a no-lose situation for the Raiders getting out and getting into Las Vegas. This right now is a no-win situation for the Athletics. Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, Carney Lansford, Dennis Eckersley, Dave Stewart, they are not walking back through that door, or at least their children aren't, to be able to put, something that's going to turn baseball on its ear. You're not going to have, Chris Pratt and the entire cast of Moneyball, Philip Seymour Hoffman, God rest his soul and everything. You're not going to actually have them turn into major league ball players and pack the seats no matter where the Athletics are playing. This is something that baseball would love to be able to see the Athletics head to a different market. Maybe follow the Raiders and head to Las Vegas. Maybe go to San Antonio. There's other California cities that they could head to. Could, maybe you field a second team in Arizona. I'm not exactly sure where. But there's other options out there in other major markets that would love to be able to have it. Baseball would probably love to see that too. Just like in some of the other sports with what's going on with the Arizona Coyotes. They've indicated that that their lease with the Gila River Arena in Glendale is up, and they're going to be playing in a 4,500 seat college basketball arena on the campus of Arizona State University for the next 3 years until their new building is built in Tempe. But it's just not something that's going to work, and the NHL would love to be able to maybe get them out of there and put them in a different market, possibly Houston, possibly San Antonio. Houston's the owner of the NBA's Rockets has been pining to get an NHL team for years, and their stadium is already NHL ready, considering it's been NBA ready for really since it opened. But I don't know how much worse this is going to get for the Athletics, and it's to the point where it's so bad, it's almost not even funny anymore. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and Mike and I will actually be back next Friday, the 13th. So it will be Friday the 13th with the Wise Guys. We hope you guys will join us then. We'll be back on Mike's channel with the Big Rican Show. And again, Friday the 13th with the Wise Guys. We will be starting at 8:30 p.m. live on YouTube and Facebook, and we hope to see you guys then. Take care.